What's up, everyone? And if you haven't noticed, we have reached 100 subscribers. We got stuck to the fan. Honestly, I never thought we'd get this far. Considering how my main channel it just didn't go anywhere. And I just want to say thank you for all the support and all the comments, the likes, the views, and everything that you have given this channel. And I figured there's definitely a lot of stuff that I was planning once I reached 100 subscribers. The first one, this is still smoking. The first one is I was actually planning on setting up a Patreon, but I'll talk more about that in its own video once I actually figure out how to work that. But I figured, what way could I celebrate 100 subscribers? So the one thing there were two ideas I had thought of. A reaction video and like my top 10 favorite decks of all time. However, doing my top 10 favorite decks of all time is kind of hard to do because that changes so often. Like, I'm not really like loyal to like one deck solely or something like that. Like I just enjoy playing lots of different decks. So that top 10 changes on a monthly basis. Aside from like maybe the top few, which usually don't really change at all. So for my 100 subscribers, instead of doing the top 10, I was actually going to react to some old deck profiles. Basically see like what was I thinking when I made these decks? Now if you're thinking about the first few deck profiles I ever did on this channel, I'm not going to do those because I pretty much mostly stand by those regardless. And they were really only like a year ago. But this channel is like a year and like 3 months old. So there hasn't really been a lot of time that has passed in between then and now to really feel to warrant a reaction of those deck profiles. The deck profiles I'm going to be reacting to are ones that I actually did on my main channel. Well, honestly, I kind of consider this channel my main channel now because my main channel flopped and this one actually is doing pretty well. And on that channel, I made 4 deck profiles. And they actually didn't do too bad on this channel, which is how this channel kind of got born. I'm like, you know what, they're doing pretty well. Why don't they make it its own channel? Good thing I did that. So as you can see here, we have 4 deck profiles. My Frog, Paleozoic, Red Eyes Guard Dragon, Karibo, and True Draco. Man, that's a horrible picture for that. So first we're going to start off with the Frog Paleozoic deck profile. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Hello. Man, this is an old playmat. This was actually my first playmat. I still have it, but this is what I used to do. Oh man, that's when I used the snowball before I had this thing. Yeah, I used to use that. One of those like it was called a Yeti snowball or something like that. I don't know. I obviously I don't use it anymore because I got a Yeti caster now. Hello everyone, and today I am going to be doing a Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile of my Frog Paleozoic deck. Now just to let you know, this is a budget version. Yeah, I used to be a pretty budget player. Honestly, to me, even a $5 card was expensive. So, like, in any of these deck profiles, you're not going to see, like, anything real expensive. Most likely. Unless I got lucky and pulled something. The only really expensive card in here is Totally Awesome. Yeah, I tried to get a little bit of money in there for the cards. Like if they were staples, like in Frog Paleozoic, obviously you have to have Totally Awesome. But I got like I still have like some staples, but like I think at the time, what was it? see, 2019. I think like, I don't know if Extravagance was out yet, but like evenly matched, I couldn't afford that. I don't know if evenly matched was out then. I don't remember what cards. Just to keep in mind, I am a budget. Man, there was a big dead space there. So I don't have a lot of all those expensive cards, such as Phantasme, Oral Sword, or Permanents. Back when they were expensive. So, yep, let's get right to it. Now I have those cards, but they're much cheaper. Phantasme's right even right here. The first and most obvious is 3 Swap Frog. This card is really insane. When this card is summoned, you can send 1 level 2 or lower Aqua Water, something like that, to the grave. So you can send like your Dupe, your Ronin Toad, and you can also bounce it back to the hand to normal summon of another frog monster except Swap Frog. And you can also discard a frog to special summon it. The good thing about Swap Frog is only its last effect where you return it to the hand is the once per turn. It's like if you summon this like 5 times in a turn, you can send like 5 frogs to the grave. Good luck doing that. It's a really good card. Next, I run 3 Dupe Frog. When Dupe Frog is sent to the grave, it allows you to search one of your frogs. And while this is on the field, the opponent cannot target other monsters for attacks. I run 2
And it misses Simon.
This is one of your cards that you want to get into the grave as quick as possible. Ronin Toad, it allows you to banish 1 frog monster special summon.
Man, my editing skills back then were garbage. They still pretty much are.
From the grave. So let's say you like banish Dupe, it allows you to special summon it from the grave. And this, along with pretty much all the frogs, except the Swap Frog's last effect, not once per turn. So you can use this as many times as you want. Next, I run 2 Poison Draw. I mainly run it for...
Yeah, I ran Poison Draw Frog. I don't know if I put that on my most recent Frog deck profile. So this is one I definitely still defend to this day, because my thought process at the time was like, what I want to do is like a more like Paleozoic Frog Turbo. I wanted to basically turbo that Ronin Toad as much as possible. But that's back when the state of the game was... honestly, it was slower than it is now. So now I don't really think that would really work. I don't think you can really turbo the Ronin Toad as quickly. But Poison Draw is not bad.
For Banish Fire to help me get off Ronin Toad much easier and build very big boards with it. And when this card is sent to the grave, you can draw a 1. It's a really good card. It's mainly for the Banish Fodder. And this is also kind of Banish Fodder, but it's still pretty good if you use it.
I ran the Flip Flop Frog. Why? Poison Draw, I could defend that. Because even if Poison Draw just gets attacked and destroyed, you get to draw a card. But Flip Flop Frog?
Essentially, when this card is face up, you can flip it face down. And when it's flipped back face up, you can return monsters your opponent controls up to the number of frogs you control. So I could say you control a Flip Flop and a Poison Draw. Flip this up and then you can bounce 2 back. Now for the last of the monsters, I run 2 Effect Veiler. I originally had like 2 or 3 Ash in here, but I just wasn't really getting them off that well.
That was my defense. I wasn't getting
ash off that well. To be back then, Effect Veiler was, I guess, a better hand trap than it is now. Effect Veiler was still good. But I'd definitely say, like, some of the more other hand traps are definitely putting in a lot more work than Effect Veiler at the moment. But that was a... play. Since for Hard Paleozoic is a trap deck, you run actual traps that do stuff like this. Because people run hand traps because it's faster, but they are faster. Most of the times, I don't even end up using it. I just end up using one of my other traps. Next, we have the Paleozoics. Oh, the good part. I run 3. No spells. I don't run a single spell. I don't think I ran many spells in my recent deck profile of Paleozoics. I don't quite remember. Canada. 3 Canada. You activate this card, you can target one monster and flip it face down. All the Paleozoics have simple effects, but their main power is when a trap card is activated, you can chain this and special summon it as a monster. And all the Paleozoics do this. And as added, they are unaffected by monster effects. So, this is good against traps. And next, I run 3 Olenodus. I think I run like 2 now. This one is your Spell and Trap Destroyer. And again, same effect as all the other Paleozoics. When a trap card is activated, you can chain it to it to special summon it as a monster and unaffected by monster effects. I also run 3 Leah Nochilia. I just call it Leah. This allows you to target one monster that is banished and return it to the grave. This is good to allow you to, say, bring a Dupe Frog back to your grave and then banish it with Ronin Toad to special Ronin Toad again. I think I run that at 2 now. Get another Paleozoic as a monster. I'll also run 2 Morella. Essentially, this card sends a trap to the grave. Usually I'd send just Morella itself to the grave, activate, send Morella. This card's only good in the beginning of the game. Once you got your graveyard built up, it's not really going to be much helpful. And the last of the Paleozoics, hitting the tripod and not even editing that out. I suppose I still make that mistake sometimes now. Oh, I definitely got good at catching that, but man, I could not edit back then. And before we go any further, I want to get me some soda because I am falling asleep. I'm back. I run 2 Dynamicious. I was running into problems with 3 because oftentimes I'd clear my hand and have nothing to discard, so I couldn't even activate it. So I went down to 2. And I think that's pretty much a soft spot for it. And now next, the non-Frog Paleozoic cards. I run 3 Reckless Greed. 3 Reckless Greed. Man, I haven't seen that card. I don't think that card's seen it play in a long time. Not a bad card, but definitely, just with how fast the game is now, not really a good one to run. Reckless Greed is a really good card because it allows you to draw 2. It skips your next 2 draw phases, but most of the time when you're activating this, you're not going to need those extra 2 draw phases. Very much just end it quickly. Also run can't do that. 2 Needlebug Nest. It sends the top 5 cards from deck to grave. 80% of what's in this deck wants to be in the grave. Your frogs, you want them in the grave. Your Paleozoics, you want them in the grave. Sure, it sucks if you like, let's say, Needlebug Nest and you get none of the frog Paleozoics, but most of the time, that's why I run a lot of frogs and Paleozoics. So I have a good ratio. It's good way of getting your resources to the grave. Now as a little protection, I run 2 Storming Mirror Force. Storming Mirror Force?
Oh man, I was running Storing Mirror Force. Imperm? Nah. Bottomless? Why'd I run that? Nah, I'm running Storming Mirror Force. Again, it's not a bad card, but why?
This is a trap. I can train Paleozoics off of it. And it's good to clear my monster's board. So sending a grand sense at hand. But during a lot of monsters nowadays have effects when they are sent to the grave, and a lot of them don't have effects when they are sent to the hand. I think this is a really good card. You don't really need 3. I think only 1 or 2 is good.
Grin would say otherwise.
Now for the help handle spells, I run 1 anti-spell fragrance and 1 Imperial Order. Anti-spell fragrance.
Why only? Well, I guess if I run 3 and I open 2, it kind of clogs my hand. But I'd still. Whoops. I'd still rather play. Like I'd play that 2 or 3.
You can run 3 of. I would run 3. I'd say more like 1 or 2, because you don't want a lot of continuous traps on the board. Essentially, these cards are to stop spells. It's like good against Sky Strikers or
Okay. Yeah, that's when Sky Strikers were good.
other spell heavy decks.
They are again,
Or
actually.
just negates spells in generals. So this one, both of these are really useful against spell traps. Like if you're going against something like maybe Thunder Dragon, probably like side them out because they don't use a lot of spells and traps, but still a good card. Now, next, I run 3 strikes and 1 warning. I had a judgment in there, but it was just paying too much, and
I was paying too much for Judgment. This shows my mind state when I was doing this deck profile. I thought that I shouldn't play Judgment because it's too much life points to pay.
honestly, this is pretty much all I really needed. Strikes essentially basically just cancel out special summonings. I originally had Lost Wind and a Horn card. I forgot what his name was. But Strike is much more effective. So I think you want to have some sort of monster removal. Like between this and your Storing Mirror Force, you got pretty good protection. I run 1 Infinite Impermanence. I can't afford more, and
Now I actually have a playset,
I was
thankfully.
lucky enough to be able to trade for it.
Oh, I traded for it.
I'd like to run more, but 1 is all I have. It's a really good card. So, and last but not least, the card is card I've been planning to actually make an entire video talking about is Chain Hole.
Now I remember what stage. I remember this. Back when I was on that Chain Hole hype. Yeah, I was like, when the Chain Hole came out, I'm like, this is the next best card. This is the next staple. Obviously, that never happened. So my thought process with Chain Hole was that it basically flat out countered True Draco. Because True Draco, they literally changed their effects, and that basically stops that. They just run an Imperm over it.
This card is really good. It's really underestimated, and it's essentially a counter for like counters. When your opponent activates a monster effect in response to a card or effect
when it's not a
activation,
counter trap.
Essentially, it negates, banishes, and they can banish 1 card from their deck with the same name. And if they don't, you can banish 1 random from their hand. Let's say you activate Deep Frog's effect to add a frog from deck to hand, and then they Ash Blossom it. You can activate this. This is really good against hand traps because a lot of decks are really killed by this, by the hand traps.
By the grave.
So I think running at least 1 of these is good in a lot of decks. Now next, I have the extra deck.
I'm kind of worried to see the extra deck, I'm not going to lie. I'm expecting it to be bad.
And I run 3 Minotaur Boy. Essentially, it's kind of like...
This was for Master Roll 4, so... You definitely did need to run the 3 Mistar Boy at that time.
Stuff like
Now you don't really need it.
Again. This is Radiant. All water monsters gain 500 attack and defense. And if this card is sent to the grave, I can add a water. It's only a link 2, and if it gets destroyed, that's fine. You mainly want it to start getting into your extra deck.
2 Toads.
Obviously. 3. Totally awesome. You have to run 3 of these. This card is really powerful. It's got a built-in negate, a special summon from the deck, and an effect when it leaves the field. Unlike the frogs, all these are...
Honestly, that's kind of triggering me. The red and yellow sleeves. Like, I still do that for some of my deck profiles now, but most of the time you can't really tell a difference. Like let's take these 2 cards. You can't really tell it from the front, but they're 2 different on the back. So, although with these, you can actually just literally see them.
But this card is just so insane. Like, you can activate during the standby to detach 1 material, send 1 special 1 frog monster from your deck. You can, when your opponent activates an effect, you can send 1 aqua monster from either your hand or your field to negate it, and you also set that card to your field. So let's say they want to activate Foolish Burial, you activate Totally Awesome's effect, then that Foolish Burial essentially becomes yours. It's really good. Like, you even just take a monster and then just think it away. It's a really good card. Now, since we are running a Frog Paleozoic deck, you gotta have Paleozoic Opibina. I run 2. This card's really good. It allows you to activate Paleozoic traps from the hand. You don't have to set them. And you can also search a Paleozoic trap.
Opibina is good.
Originally I had Homunculus in here too, but I just didn't really like it.
I still don't like Homunculus. I still just think, because I think Homunculus requires 3 level 2s, while this requires 2. It's like, in my opinion, Opibina just has a way better effect.
Rather much getting Opibina out over Homunculus because you can get things much more effectively. And Homunculus, it requires 3 level 2s. This one only requires 2. So it's much easier to get off. Next, I run 2 Proxy Dragons. It's a good generic link too. I mainly need it for the arrows because
I have not seen Proxy Dragon. Well, actually, in an upcoming deck profile, I did use Proxy Dragon. But aside from that, man, that card has become a relic of Master Rule 4.
a normal field that I start out with is usually like a Mistar Boy with Totally Awesome. And then I'd have a Proxy Dragon, which kind of opens me to start building a board. So it's always good to have a proxy. Next, I run Nightmare Phoenix, spell and trap removal, Nightmare Cerberus, your special summon monster removal, and Griffin, which allows you to set 1 spell trap from your graveyard to your field. And if these cards are co-linked when their effects are activated, you can draw 1. Just really good cards. And now, the last 2 is 1 Bomber Dragon and 1
Bomber Dragon. I ran Bomber Dragon? I don't even remember what Bomber Dragon does.
Borreload Dragon.
Borreload's good.
Boral Sword. You'd want that in here. Probably take that, replace Bomber with it. Maybe just gotta add an extra spot, and Bomber is very good in tight situations, like if you need to just nuke the field. Of course, Borreload's a really insane and powerful card. Now, last but not least, the side deck.
Oh yeah, I think on my main channel I actually did side decks. Now I don't do side decks mainly just because a side deck just doesn't age very well. Like let's take Let's take my Ulti deck profile from, I think, December. You can still watch it and still take some stuff off from that video. But if I were to put a side deck on that one, it'd be outdated because the side deck, it changes with the format. So side decks just don't age very well, so I don't really even include them. So let's see how badly this side deck aged. I usually side deck to match against the meta. So I run 3 Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Point exactly. Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. If I'm thinking at the time, I think the most dominant deck was Orcust. I'm not too sure. I remember there was a point where Orcust was like everywhere at my locals, so I definitely use this, although I didn't even use this like to side against Orcust. I used it as a side against Sky Striker and Salamangreats. It works, but there's better options. It's kind of a forgotten hand trap. With this card, you can reveal if your opponent controls more monsters than you do. You can discard this card, reveal 1 card in your extra deck, and if they have that card as well, you can banish it. All cards of that name. And that is why I have move it out of the camera range. Salamangreat Violet Chimera, Salamangreat Helio, Sky Striker Ace Hayate, and Cyber Dragon Infinity. Essentially, I side deck against. Yeah, I think Cyber Dragons were actually doing something at the time too. Salamangreat, Sky Striker, and Cyber Dragons. So by activating this, I essentially banished all that from their extra deck. And if they haven't gotten into it already, it's going to really hurt them quite a bit. I don't even remember that happened. If they haven't gotten into it already, it's what? I still don't get how that happened. Like, what is even going on here? I don't know what happened here. Because all enough, I'm still using the same camera I've always had. Like the camera that this is being recorded on, this one as well. I have no idea what to even make of this. I completely forgot that happened. It really hurt them quite a bit. I even put it right there. I have no idea what happened there. Bizarre. Next, I run 1 Super Poly. Just because a really good card can be responded to. Why 1? I already have a. Maybe it was already at 1 at the time. I do remember a point where Super Poly was. I don't know if it was ever banned, but it was at least at 1. So maybe that's when I was at 1. Let's side deck and I'm going against Salamangreats. Maybe throw Super Poly in there. I can bring out Violet Chimera for myself. Salamangreat Violet Chimera OTK. Next, I run 3 Red Reboot. This is a card I'm never taking on my side deck. I've gotten completely destroyed by a trap deck. And I have since taken it on my side deck. But only because it's that 1, and honestly, I'm not going to side a card that's a 1 of, because it's not really going to... The odds of you seeing it are very low. Like guys, because I don't have a way out aside from Red Reboot. And it's a really good card to stop traps, and I think always having at least 1 in your side deck is a good option, because you never know when you're going to go against like an Altergeist or another Paleozoic, and this card can just completely shut that deck down. It does. And it did when I took it to a YCS. Next, I side deck 2 Heavy Stormduster. A lot of people probably main deck this, but between Oleanitis and all the other stun cards I have, I usually oftentimes don't need it, but I side deck it just in case I'm going against like maybe a Sky Striker or a card that has a heavy back row, just in case. I also have 1 Evenly Matched. I was lucky enough to pull it. And that's the one I was lucky enough to pull. So I traded for the Imperm, and the Evenly Matched I actually pulled. Explain how good this card is. Essentially, you can just destroy your opponent's board. And I don't even have it in the sleeve. What was the me thinking? Like, it's not even in the sleeve. I don't think for any of the cards in the sleeves. I don't think they were. I'm now very concerned for past me. And last but not least, I decided to take one Gozen match. In case I go against something that's like maybe like a Thunder Dragon or a deck that has a bunch of different attributes. Just run there can be only one. That's better in every way. Pretty much it. I hope you may have found some cards that were you could probably add to your Frog Paleozoic, or if you want to build that yourself. So that was my Frog Paleozoic deck. Well, yeah. I'll make this right. There. That makes sense. Well, that's going to be all for this video. I might make a part 2 to where I do the other 2 deck profiles. I don't know. Let me know. Do you want to see that? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, I will be burying my face in the pillow for the next hour. See you next time, mate. Bye.